Good morning, YouTube. This morning I just want to do a little video and talk about some things that all of us can do passively to prepare for any kind of emergency. Obviously, if we can project an event happening or catastrophe happening, and maybe it's not really that big of an emergency because if we know it's coming, then we can prepare for it and minimize it, and it's just not that big of a deal. There are an unknown number of emergencies that can occur at a moment's notice, and it's impossible to prepare for every one of them. But what we can all do is do some very basic things that no matter what the emergency is, we're slightly and in some way prepared for it so it's less impactful and less dangerous for us and our families. So a couple of the things that I like to do is focus on the 4 Fs, which is food, fuel, firearms, and first aid. Basically, the first one is food, which includes water. You want to make sure you have some food that will last a long time. You don't want to store food that you're going to have to rotate every few days or every few weeks. You want those sustainable things, shelf stable. And the number one best thing you can prep with to make sure you have on hand during an emergency is MREs, the kind of food that the military uses. They store it for a long time in various climates, and cold weather and hot weather, in the middle of the desert, in the middle of areas where there's snow. You can store those things too. You can buy them online. If you have a friend or somebody who has access to a military base where they have a commissary, you can buy them at the commissary. Usually they're like $100 a case for 12 meals, but you know you're paying a higher price, but you're buying a stable food source that can last you a long time. Other things you can buy is canned goods, but you got to take into account that canned goods are a lot heavier and smaller than if you had a full meal of a MRE that's a little bit lighter. You can have a lot of dry fruit, a lot of dry foods that are light. Just got to keep in mind that you're not hydrating yourself at all when you're eating these things, and the body has a tendency to use your fluids in your body naturally when processing foods in your stomach and inside your body. So take that into account. So if you have dry foods, you know it doesn't help you with your water. You gotta have some water on hand as well. Energy bars, energy drinks, any kind of thing that gives your body a little bump. I like to store little energy shots so that if I ever have to move quickly and I don't know, emergency happens at the end of the day and I'm tired from work, I can have the energy to get to where I gotta go and get my family to safety, versus taking a risk and not having something that'll give me a little bump and thinking that the emergency itself will keep my adrenaline up. Other things you can do for food safety is have edible foods growing around your house, whether it's fruit trees or plants or berries, or different kind of leafy vegetables that you would normally grow in a backyard garden or whatever. Those are good to have as well. Other things you can take into account or should take into account is your children. Obviously you'll take them into account when you're preparing for your family, but you got to take into account the needs of, say, an infant or a newborn. You want to take that into account. So do you need baby food, or are you just going to stock up on a bunch of adult food and think that's going to work for your kids? I don't know, maybe it will. I mean, any kind of nourishment is good whenever you don't have any, right? Taking into account your pets. Sure, you can feed your pets the same food that you're eating and they'll be just fine. However, you just want to take into account their dietary needs and things like that, and also pet food's probably a lot cheaper than human type food, so take that into account. The next F would be the first aid. So right off the bat, anything you can do for first aid, and have on hand, any kind of supplies you can have on hand, whether it's Band-Aids or a lot of Band-Aids or ointments for cuts and bruises, cuts and scrapes, it's good to have. It's better than having nothing. You want different kind of bandages to stop bleeding, bandages to keep wounds clean, bandages that absorb anything and everything you can come up with. Medicine, you want to have different kind of various medicines for, cold medicine, flu medicine, headache medicine, Benadryl for your sinuses, or whatever kind of medicine that you might need. And you want to have children's versions of those medicines on hand too. You don't want to, be in a disastrous or emergency situation and you're forced to give your children the same dose that you would be taking. I mean, it's just not necessary. It's a waste, and it could be harmful to your children. You want to make sure you're using your prescriptions. If you have prescriptions for some kind of condition that you have, maybe you don't need it right now, but you might need it in an emergency situation. So make sure you use your prescriptions. And refill them as you can, not just when you need them, but have them on hand in case you need them. When it comes to your overall first aid kits, you want to have small ones, and you want to have large ones if you can do it. I like to have a bunch of little ones. I have them all over my house in random places. All my vehicles have them. And then I also have a larger first aid kit that's meant for more advanced injuries. Even have some surgical equipment in there. Not that I'm an expert at surgery or something like that, but in an emergency situation, there might be somebody that could use those things and help protect you, your family, or you can help them out by having the materials. So consider that. Another thing to think about is when you look at these first aid kits, sometimes you can go to stores and buy little cheap first aid kits. Like I said, any kind of first aid is good, but you want to consider what's durable, what's going to last. You don't want to go out and buy a first aid kit that the second it gets wet, that everything just falls apart. Your Band-Aids don't work. But instead, you want to work on having the things that are sustainable and can last a long time. All right, firearms is the third thing I like to prepare with. I would just say I have a lot of firearms, and I don't have the sexy firearms. I have the basic firearms, rifles, pistols, shotgun, and I try to keep the most common types of ammunition. What good's a weapon or a pistol or a rifle or a shotgun if you don't have the right size ammunition to use in it? There's no value in it whatsoever. So make sure you have weapons that have common ammunition, and possibly weapons that are not bulky, because you may be in a situation where you don't want people to know that you have those weapon systems, because you don't want them, first off, try to take them from you, or maybe you don't want them to see you as a threat, and then so that may lead them to taking some kind of action against you unnecessarily. So take that into account. Last one is fuel. I try to keep fuel stored in my garage, several 5-gallon jugs. You want to consider what kind of fuel cans you're using. You want durable. You don't want ones that are easily to be punctured. And you want to make sure you treat that fuel so that it lasts longer. You can buy a fuel treatment at the auto parts store, so that your fuel lasts longer. I rotate mine every 3 to 4 months. I mean, they say you can keep fuel stored after it's been treated for 6 months to a year, but I just have it in my I guess you could say battle rhythm to rotate every once in a while, because I never know when I might need it, and I want it to last as long as possible. So why not do it whenever I have the opportunity to do it? So there's just some thoughts to keep in mind whenever you're doing some basic preparation around the house when you have time.